Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Tuesday, September 24th, 2019 meeting of the City of West Palm Beach Historic Preservation Board. Can we please begin with a roll call?
Amanda Schuyler.
Here.
Theodore Aspergren.
Here.
Kristen Kellogg. Let the record reflect that Kristen Kellogg is not present. Dan Pickney.
Here.
Takara Chambers. Let the record reflect that Takara Chambers is not present. Gabriel Jaslowski.
Here.
Ken Breslauer.
Here.
Reginald Stambaugh. Let the record reflect that Reginald Stambaugh is not present. Nick Casale.
Here.
Thank you. Moving on to approval of the agenda for tonight's meeting. Do we have any changes to the agenda as presented?
Yes, Madam Chair. It's 8.2 on the agenda, case number 19-45 for 916 37th Street, alterations for a roof. That is something that the applicant has come into compliance with and will be moving forward with the bitumen finish on that roof instead of the asphalt shingles. It was actually a case we were bringing to you because we hadn't had this type of roofing change before and we weren't sure on the board's policy, but they have come into compliance, so we'd appreciate any feedback, but we're also happy to just wait in case it arises again, because it is a rare type of roofing material, at least in terms of how often it occurs, and that is just the kind of tar and gravel. And then also for the window policy, we thought maybe it's best to put that at the end of the agenda for discussion purposes.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any changes to the agenda by members of the board? Any suggested changes? Okay, can we have a motion to approve with those two changes presented by staff?
I move that we approve the agenda for Tuesday, September 24th with the two changes suggested by staff. Case 19-43 moved to the end of the meeting, and case 19-45, which is now in compliance.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Moving on to approval of the minutes for August 27th, 2019. Do we have any changes to the minutes as presented? Okay, seeing none, can we have a motion to approve?
I move that we approve the minutes for the August 27th, 2019 Historic Preservation Board meeting.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Moving on to the report of the Historic Preservation Planner.
Good evening, Frederique Metner, City Historic Preservation Planner. Since the board's last meeting, staff has had 71 level 1 applications, and we've reviewed 21 zoning applications. Also under general communications, I just wanted to share with the board about a paper that I've put at your seats, and that is the announcement from the Ann Norton Sculpture Garden that they've been identified as the only site in Florida to be eligible through funding available through the National Trust for Historic Preservation, American Express, and the Main Street America National Geographic magazine for funding for restoration projects on site. So you can vote up to 5 times a day, and the information is here for anyone who's listening on TV. It is, you would text Main Street, all one word, to 5288886, or you could also just go on the Ann Norton Sculpture Garden website and or the National Trust for Historic Preservation website. So I would encourage you to support our local historic site, and again, the only one in Florida. Thanks.
Wonderful, thank you. We now move on to remarks by the chairperson. The matters before us this evening are quasi-judicial in nature, which means we base our decisions based on competent, substantial evidence that comes before us. We ask you to please keep this in mind while speaking. For each case, there will be a presentation by the applicant, followed by a presentation by staff. We'll then open it up to public comment, and if there is public comment, the applicant will have an opportunity for rebuttal. After the rebuttal, we will go into executive session, and then we'll make a decision on the case. To lead into this, we need to let you know if we have had any conversations about the items on tonight's agenda outside of this meeting. So we will now begin a declaration, thank you, of ex parte communications.
Gabe Jaslowski, no ex parte communication.
Theodora Aspegren, no ex parte communication.
Amanda Skyer, I did speak to Ms. Mittner about the cases on tonight's agenda, but I can make my decisions based on the evidence presented.
Dan Pickney, no ex parte communications.
Ken Breslauer, no ex parte communication.
Nick Casatley, no ex parte communications.
Thank you. We now enter the public comment portion of our meeting. If you are here to speak on an item that is not on the agenda, now is the time to do so. Is there anyone here for public comment? Okay, seeing none. We'll now move on to the swearing in of our speakers. If you plan to speak, please rise and raise your right hand to be sworn in.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
Thank you. We have 2 consent cases on tonight's agenda. Can we have a motion to approve the consent cases?
I move that we approve case number 19-46 for 705 Claremore Drive and case 19-48 for 439 28th Street on the consent calendar.
Do you have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. If you are 705 Claremore Drive or 439 28th Street, your case has been approved. Thank you. Okay, moving on to continued cases from last month's meeting. Case number 19-41, 328 Cordova Road.
Good evening, Frederique Mittner. I'm going to let the applicant present the revisions that were presented in your packet.
Good evening. For the record, Rafael Rodriguez, Architect Studio SR. Let me just open up the file here. I'd like to start with the photos and familiarize with the project a little bit. First photo is actually you can see the site wall and the existing curb cut, which we plan to maintain. The site wall is about 5 feet tall, and it does have these 2 lights on the entrance piers. Immediately beyond that, you have the concrete drive, and you have an existing sliding gate, which we also plan to keep as part of the design. Here's the existing house. You can see the existing driveway extending back into the house into what was at one time a carport, which has been enclosed. And it does have a fountain kind of centered on a just stucco arch. All the work around the windows is actually stucco, scored stucco, and painted a different color to give it that look. A head-on shot as you drive in, what you will see of the existing driveway, you have the dining room 1 story to the right, and then 3 windows, and then kitchen windows beyond that. This is the east elevation showing the covered loggia. This was the carport at one time, and as stated before, the front wall was covered up, but there's a fireplace on the front wall. There's an arch on the east side, and then 2 openings, 2 window openings, with the scored stucco detail around it. Further west, you see the 1-story loggia with the bedroom above. The parapet in that section is about 4 feet lower than the main parapet of the main house. In the addition of the 2nd floor, we are planning to keep the height of that parapet and not extend it up to the full height of the parapet. So we will be building above this 1-story family room on the 2nd floor as part of the project. This is further south, and you see the 2 windows I was talking about before, and then that's the master 2 windows of the master bedroom beyond. 7 feet away to the south is the 2-story guest house, which has this existing wood stair with a covered roof above, which is in not really great shape, which we are planning to rebuild in concrete, as a concrete stair. This is the west facade showing the blank wall of the master bedroom, where we will be installing 2 windows. And as you can see here, it looks like at one time there were openings there, and that were stuccoed over. The west elevation of the 2-story guest house, showing the wood stair beyond, and we'll be installing new impact-rated windows in this house. This is inside the 1-story loggia, where there's a structural system here that was established to support the 2nd floor. What we'll be doing here is actually taking this area and enclosing it and make it part of AC space and part of the living room, the family room space. And this will be an entertainment area to the right here, which will be have a refrigerator and bar area. Again, on the front facade, you can also see these openings that also occur on the west facade with some metal railings inside. This is a detail of the west facade, which shows, again, that window opening and the existing arched with the stucco around it. There is a roof right now over that 1-story portion. The idea here is to enter from the new addition, the garage and the storage addition, through this space. We'll be enlarging this space to have an opening that someone can go through while going from the garage, covered in the breezeway, into this loggia. Thereby also creating sort of minimal obstruction in the main house. All the structure of the addition will be within the addition and very minimal obstruction to this historic house. Last month when I was here, someone asked me about the fountain. This is actually detail of the fountain, which is a simple cast stone fountain, which also we are keeping in the design. And we sort of managed to center the fountain in the driveway area. This is the existing survey of the property. It's a 18,590 square foot lot, which is quite large for El Cid. The house, the lot consists of a 2-story house, which is 3,984 square feet, and the 2-story residence, and then a 2-story guest house, which I guess at one time was the garage of this main of the property. There's a pool on the southeast corner. This is the covered loggia with the bedroom above that I was referring to. Is the existing concrete drive. This wood deck is no longer here. That's been removed since this survey was done. This drawing in the hatched area actually explains the idea behind the design that we are proposing this time. We are attaching the existing main house via the covered loggia with this breezeway that is going to connect the 2-car garage, storage area, and an open breezeway will be colonnaded with barrel tile and columns that will match the columns of the front of the house. We felt this was minimal obstruction, kept the historic house intact, kept the fountain, the entrance, the curb cut, and the piers all intact. This is the site plan in your package. This was submitted to Frederic, and one of the comments that Frederic had was because this structure, the new addition, projected above the front facade of the existing house, he felt it should be moved back. So what we've done since then is moved the garage structure back to be in line with the main facade of the house. And I'll show you that. Here. So this is the first floor showing on top the two-car garage, the storage area, this breezeway, which is going to connect the two-car garage with the loggia. You can see this line here, a dashed line from the existing facade of the main house in line with the facade of the new garage structure. We have a two-car garage. They're large vehicles, so we felt it necessary to provide a large backup area. We have 30 feet from the existing wall of the dining room, the west wall, to the front facade of the garage. It worked out quite nicely because we were able to get this element in here, this open breezeway between both structures. This breezeway will be below the existing one-story roof that's there. So again, we're not going to have to go into that roof and redo it, remodel it. It's just going to stay as is. Everything will be built below. Also, we will be remodeling the two-story guest house, and then the interior renovations of the house, the master bedroom, the area which we are taking in from the loggia and enclosing it into AC space on the first floor. Bear with me. This drawing shows two sections, both through the breezeway, one looking west and one looking east. The drawing on top shows the breezeway and then the garage door behind that. There's also a circular gate which will offer access into the breezeway from the driveway area. And then the drawing below is the breezeway attaching to the main house underneath that one-story portion, and here is that opening that you'll be able to go through and enter into the loggia when it's raining, so you're covered totally all the time from entering the garage into the main house. I've shown here the existing elevation, the south elevation, which is the front elevation on the top, and then the proposed south elevation on the bottom, which shows the garage with 3 windows on the front facade, and then this pent roof on the facade of the garage, which is typical what's happening in the rest of the house. It does have these overhangs, so we felt that was an important element that we want to maintain in the design. This is the east elevation, again, the existing east elevation on the top, and then the proposed east elevation showing the back of the garage with the garage door and a window as presented, which Frederic has asked us to have more of a vertical proportion to it, and I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, on the bottom, here's the door of the garage, and then immediately to the left is that new single-hung window, which has a vertical portion that's found throughout the house. It's found in the guest house, also in the main house, the same proportion, same size. The south elevation, the rear, showing the, again, main house on the top, and then the addition renovation on the bottom. Linking both elements is the breezeway with columns, And then on the back of the garage storage area will be an opening, which allows you to go out into the pool area. And then there's another pent roof, which will cover the barbecue area, which is close proximity to the pool. This west elevation shows the existing master bedroom area here with this lower structure with a hip roof, and then the two windows, two egress windows, by the way, have to meet code. So that's why they're a little larger than the rest in this case. Proposed and existing elevations of the guest house. The drawing on top, especially to the right, shows the existing north elevation, which shows the wood stair, and then sort of this landing for the second floor, which is in terrible shape. So what we want to do is rebuild that whole section while we were doing the stair. It will have a little storage area underneath the stair and also this exterior shower area. A larger window on the south elevation because of the egress requirements, keeping the single-story impact rating with the rest of the windows of the main house. And that concludes the presentation. Thank you. Any
Thank you.
questions?
Questions of the applicant? Well, I'm very happy to see the redesign.
Thank you.
I think it's very compatible with the nature of this contributing structure, that it's really an important property within LCID. And I think that this is one of those rare situations where it has a lot of land associated with it, and that you're able to do an attached two-car garage, which is much more appropriate. So thank you for working with us on it. We really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. We did take the board's comments very seriously when we started here. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Mittner?
Yes, thank you. I don't think there's a whole lot more for me to add. I think he covered all the modifications and revisions that were taken into consideration from the board's direction last meeting, so I'll just skip ahead to real quick, obviously pointing out where the garage is located, side loading, which was board direction. The one-story, it does read as a separate element, even though from a zoning code standpoint, it's a solid roof, so it's considered connected. And then this is the side, and as you heard, he's already addressed the window and the rear. And also there are those alterations and additions to the rear and accessory structure, which we were recommending approval of before. We now feel it fully meets the Historic Preservation Ordinance and Secretary of Interior standards, and the condition that the garage shall be aligned with the front facade. That is a little less than the 3 feet we originally recommended in the staff report, but I think this is the intent of the alignment, and so he just clarified that, and again, the window be vertically oriented. So we do feel like the revisions that were presented tonight meet those recommendations. Thank you.
Would you like those conditions still included in the motion, or do you feel with the updated plans that it's been addressed?
I believe it's been addressed, so if you could just cite the plans presented this evening, I think that would cover it.
Okay,
Thank you.
okay. Do you have any questions of staff? Okay, thank you. Now we'll open it up to public comment. I have one card for Mr. Simpson.
Good evening. Thank you, Historic Preservation Board, for all your work and service. I know LCID certainly appreciates it. I am the president of the LCID Neighborhood Association. My name is Steve Simpson, and I must disclose I sold this property to the owner. I sold it actually a couple times, but the LCID Neighborhood Association voted on this. The board itself voted on this presentation before the alignment, before it was moved back as requested, and we were in favor of this, of you approving this, or as the plans are being presented. So with the move back, which I was notified today that was happening, I think it even makes it better. So I'm sure that my board will appreciate that that's been requested and met. So we're excited about seeing the improvement and looking forward to this owner enjoying the property for many years. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I think that's wonderful that the board, the LCID, reviewed this application. I think that's wonderful, and we would love your participation and feedback whenever you feel it's appropriate on projects that are occurring within LCID.
Well, thank you. And I must say that the first presentation, when it was facing forward, our board agreed with you, and they didn't want to see it approved and built like that. So we're all, I think, for the most part, thinking in the right direction. You know, and I believe what you've come up with is best for the neighborhood and certainly best for the house. So I'm glad it works out well for the owner too. So I think everybody's going to be happy.
Good.
Thank you.
We feel the same, and we're very happy that the owner is making such an investment in this property. I think it's going to be to the benefit of everyone in the neighborhood, so we appreciate that.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do we have any further public comment on this item? Okay, seeing none. You have an opportunity to respond if you would like to. No rebuttal needed, okay. So we'll go into executive session. I think I'm very pleased with the redesign. I think it's, as Ms. Mittner stated, it is fully aligned with the Secretary of Interior standards. And I believe, and hopefully the owner agrees, it addresses their needs for their family. So I think this is a great resolution for everyone involved. And so, yeah, I don't know if anyone else has anything to add.
Yeah, I want to add something. I don't know that I should say this, but I'm very proud of this board because this is not the first time, and hopefully it's not the last time, that we see a project coming back that receives comments, and at the end is a much better product.
Yes. Well, and I think it's so important that the applicant, the homeowner, the architect is willing to work with us. So it's wonderful when we can all work together. So thank you. With that, would someone like to make a motion? Unless we have any further comments, anything you want to add in? Okay.
No more conditions, correct?
No, you would just say with the plans presented this evening, because they made the updates based on the conditions from staff.
I move that the Historic Preservation Board approve application number 19-41 for alterations, additions, in accordance with standards 1 through 10 as set forth in section 94-49 of the city's zoning and land development regulations. The motion is based on the testimony presented along with the application submitted in the staff report, which constitute competent substantial evidence.
Great. Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you.
I'm Ashley Anderson. I just like
Oh.
to say thank you. Really excited to move down to the area. I've been admiring this area for years since I moved down here, so I'm glad to finally be a part of it. You're doing a really good job
Well-
of keeping everything looking beautiful.
Oh,
So,
well, thank you, and thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a good night.
Yes. Moving on to case number 19-44, 294 Granada Road.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is George Janitis with Biltmore Contracting. We're representing the owner at 294 Granada Road. He's wanting to change his existing awning and picture aluminum windows to black vinyl windows, and modifies some of the openings. He's kind of gotten some of his idea from 259 Barcelona Road, which is a contributing structure within the El Cid area. And this home that we're proposing on is a ranch-style, non-contributing home within the area. We would be changing some of the awning windows to basically single hung. We would mimic the awnings with horizontal muttons, changing out picture windows for picture windows. And then some of the bedroom windows, we'd be putting in horizontal sliders and able to maintain egress. The owners were very interested in doing the vinyls because of the energy efficiency of them compared to the aluminums. The going from non-impact to impact windows. They're older clients. They're not going to be putting up shutters, plywood, and whatnot for storms. And yeah, we'd like to see if we can get these approved with their black frames with the interiors white frames. Any questions?
Questions of the applicant?
I've also brought some samples in of the extrusion of the window and an actual window, so you can see some of the technology of how it's built. They come with a lifetime warranty. I know typical experience with white vinyl is they're going to yellow, they're going to fade, they're going to crack over time. These windows are all built with virgin plastic materials, and they come with a lifetime guarantee. And the exterior would be black.
So that means that if the color fades, the manufacturer comes and replaces all the windows
Correct.
for free.
Yes.
What is the reason that they are proposing to infill a portion of a wall?
The infill, there's actually two infills. There's an adjacent side jalousie glass door that's not directly facing the west exposure. And I've done phases at this house, and the next phase is going to be the kitchen there, and we're going to turn it into a galley kitchen, and we want to just create a window there and infill the sill. The other infill is for the living room, where we're going to do another phase there to expand his bedroom to make his hallways more accessible for down the road for this client. But we would maintain the same exterior facade. There's a brick veneer around it. We would mimic the same going back and just shrinking the opening.
So your presentation that you just handed out, it says applying to alter one opening that is not on the main elevation. What is that referring to? The door?
That's the door, but there's an additional opening on the north elevation on Granada. The main address for the house is 294 Granada. The olive side of the house is the door that does not directly face the street. It's kind of in an alcove.
But so one of the alterations that you're requesting is on a main elevation?
Correct.
Okay.
But that's to accommodate their future needs in expanding their bedrooms and giving them hallways 44 inches wide, making it wheelchair accessible and whatnot.
Couldn't you just do like a false wall on the inside or something, rather than changing the actually opening?
That's where to create the hallway, I need to move an interior wall, and that's going to push that into that window. So that's why we're shrinking it down.
Okay. Any further questions of the applicant?
Yeah, so you understand that this case came with a recommendation for or deny from.
I totally understand that, and that's why I have the way I interpret your definitions of contributing and non-contributing. This is a non-contributing home that's ranch style. There's nothing architectural about it that contributes. It's just within a historic district. And if anything, this is going to make the house much more uniform and modern as far as the way I look at it. Not necessarily modern, but just more uniform.
So, I am seeing two issues here, and I understand that this is not a non-contributing structure, right? But the color is a big one. So, we will discuss it, but, do you think that the owner will be willing to change to a different color?
I think what's kind of got him set on the color is 259 Barcelona. That's a contributing home with black windows, and that's honestly where he's gotten the idea. That's on behind the second page.
Yeah, no, I saw it.
And that's honestly, I believe, where he got his idea from.
Does he understand that those homes are two different architectural styles and from two different eras?
Sure. Yep.
Okay, because that's really the main thing, is that even though this is a non-contributing home within a historic district, any changes to it should still be compatible with the architectural style that it is.
Okay.
So historically, on mid-century properties, you would not see a dark window frame like that. So that's the issue there.
So, but on Barcelona, a historic home like that, we would see
But
black.
that is a Mediterranean revival, I think, right?
Yes.
It's new construction.
No, it's not.
The Barcelona Road.
No, that
That's
came
not?
before us a couple years ago.
But this is a different type of architecture. So a Mediterranean revival can accept that color, but this property, can't, because historically was built with mill finish aluminum windows.
Sure.
It's more modern than the other one.
And then, of course, changing the size of the openings is a concern. So there's more flexibility with a non-contributing property, but it still needs to, any changes need to be in keeping with the original appearance of the home.
And that's what we're trying to maintain with creating the horizontal muttons, giving it the appearance of an awning style window, just making it a more modern, energy efficient window.
Okay. Do we have any further questions? Have you tried working with staff and the owner on this to work it out?
He's pretty dead set on
Okay.
this is what he wants. He wasn't able to make the meeting, so I'm here.
Okay, because ideally we would love to, see the case continued and work it out so that, he doesn't have to reapply and things like that. But if that is the direction that you've been given.
Yeah, that's really what he wants. He's called me over and said, I've drove by this house. I love the way it looks. I'd love to do that with my house. It's a white painted house. He's got a gray black shingle roof. Eventually he wants to go to a gray tile. And that's kind of his theme, is white and black.
Okay. Well, do we have any further questions? Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Good evening, Aaron Borger, Historic Preservation Planner. So this is for 294 Granada for alterations to windows. This is the project location here, highlighted in red. The request today is by Biltmore Contracting for installation of replacement windows. I broke up just to be a little bit more for clarification. Replacement of existing metal awning windows with PGT Industry vinyl windows, an assortment of single hung with colonial muttons, picture windows with no muttons, and horizontal rollers with no muttons, partial infill of a primary front street-facing window opening D, and also a partial infill of an obscure secondary side street elevation door opening H, as well as a black frame color. This is a non-contributing structure within the Elliston Historic District, though having said that, this structure is completely eligible to be contributing. During the last resurvey, which was around 2006, the owner objected to the change in status so that it kept the non-contributing status. But it's a fantastic ranch, and it could be contributing at the next resurvey. This is the existing site. This is the north elevation from Granada. One of the things I just wanted to point out, this is the window opening D that's proposed to be partially infilled. And at some point within the past few years, the stone cladding had been painted white without a certificate of appropriateness approval. As you're aware, any previously unpainted surface needs an approval to be painted by the Historic Preservation Board. This is from Google Street View from February 26, 2015, so at some point after this, it was painted, the stone cladding, and this just shows, before the house was painted white, the north elevation on Granada as well as the west elevation on Olive. This is the west elevation on Olive, just showing the two windows, the jalousie door right here, which is proposed to become a window, partially filled. The two car garage door, as well as looks like they're already a replacement window, and an awning window right here. This is the proposed site plan by the applicant. So on the street elevation, so this would be C, D, and E, as well as F, G, H, and I. Those are proposed to be black, but on the non-street elevation, so K, J, B, and A, the color is proposed to be white. And horizontal rollers are proposed for A and B. This is the site plan, and these are the existing windows for J and K. As you can see right here, they're on the side. This right here is the existing door with jalousie windows that they're proposing to partially fill in. And this is window I right here as it exists today. Window opening D right here that currently exists, that's being proposed to be partially infill, as the applicant mentioned, for a future project of increasing the master bedroom, I believe it was. And then window opening G as shown right here, and this is the corresponding window. Right here we have the existing window A as illustrated here. So the product information, they're proposing to use a PGT wind guard vinyl products, and with a single hung, a picture hung, and a horizontal roller. This is a section of the window. One of this is the parts of window D proposed. So they're proposing clear glass. They're proposing a grid type of 7/8 inch of traditional SDL, so that's the simulated divided lights. Low E is none, and the grid style is colonial lights. So the traditional simulated divided light grids would have this appearance, and they're proposing black frame colors, and this is for the street-facing elevations. The white will be for the non-street elevations. This is a proposed fixed window that they showed in their application, and this is the proposed single-hung window that they're proposing. They're proposing the infill of the existing door H, which is here, which is not readily visible. It is, while on a side street elevation, it faces a different direction, so it is not, and it is a jalousie door. So they're proposing to do a partial infill and putting a single hung window in its place. So the applicant didn't cite 259 Barcelona Road, which is a Mediterranean Revival home. It's a completely different era of the time frame, and as well as this structure actually has a combination of replacement windows and existing wood windows that were restored. So as you're aware, we don't regulate paint surfaces on already painted surfaces, so the windows would have already been painted. I believe, looking in the staff report, they already were painted white, so painting in black would be acceptable because we do not regulate that. So in matching with new windows with the existing windows that were restored, approving black windows was appropriate. So staff has reviewed the criteria for alterations, and this does not comply with Secretary of Interior 6 or 9 for number 6. These are, as the applicant mentioned, aluminum windows. An aluminum product is available to use today. Vinyl was not historically available at the time, and they should also match the visual qualities as well as the color and design when possible. And for number 9, the infill, primarily on the Granada side, would change the rhythm of voids to solids, and that is considered inappropriate. So staff has recommended denial of the application for certificate of appropriateness, as I wrote in the staff report. I did, however, consider an alternative if the board was interested in approving the application with conditions that would bring into compliance with the Secretary of Interior standards number 6 and 9. I know the applicant did mention that the property owner is very set on this, so I'm not sure if I would like me to read this or it would be best to continue it so that the property owner is aware that this is probably more in line with what we're looking for.
Questions of staff?
So did you talk to the applicant or no?
I spoke to Michelle from Biltmore Contracting a couple of times and saying the differences. I have never spoken to the property owner himself though, and I believe they mentioned that he would be out of town and wouldn't be back until October or so, if that's correct.
Okay. So with these recommendations, that one window that they're looking to make smaller, that would be preserved, the original opening.
So the original opening, and then these conditions, and I can read them off if would be preferred. The only change in opening that would be approved with these, if the board is interested, is that door, which would be allowed to be smaller, but it would have to be a casement window, which would more accurately reflect the jalousie nature of it. And I can read this all off if you want me to.
Do you think we need it read? I don't think we need, I think we can read it.
Okay.
Thank you. I mean, does anybody have any questions about these conditions?
I did want to add one thing.
Yes,
so for
go
number
ahead.
2, there's 2 and then 1 and then 2 and 2. So that's just an order of preference of what would be more preferred.
Okay.
You know, sticking with the appearance but materials, but also what is the spirit of how that window operates. So the first one would be ideal because it's an awning replacing an awning, but understanding that, you know, there's a significant cost associated with that. So the casements would still open outward, but it'll be one single piece of glass, and you can use the raised/flat grids that are illustrated here to mimic that appearance of the awning window. So the pick, if so interested.
I just have a question. You'll have to excuse me. Sometimes I have hearing issues. I heard you say that you didn't discuss this with the owner. Okay, but did you in fact discuss it with the contractor?
Oh, yep. I spoke to Michelle at the contracting
Okay.
company a couple times regarding it, and as the representative has mentioned, that the owner seems to be pretty firm in wanting what he's proposing.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Any further questions of staff? Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Do we have any members of the public here to speak on this? Okay. Would you like to say something? Sure.
I'm curious in your proposed solutions how some of those windows will meet egress in the bedrooms.
So for number 2, so the idea is that this is for street-facing elevations where you're proposing the horizontal rollers. That's fine because it's on a non-street elevation, and I do apologize about not mentioning that the first time. So that should satisfy the egress concerns.
Yep.
Okay. So what do you think? Do you want us to continue? Do you want us to approve it? Because staff's recommending denial. I don't
Yes.
know how everybody's going to vote, but there's a possibility that it's going to be denied. Would you like us to continue it so you can perhaps take this back to the owner to present this option? Would you like us to approve it with these conditions? What?
I can't, I'd have to speak to him first before any approval. I'd like to probably go back to him with a continuance.
Okay. Yeah, because obviously we would like to try to work this out in that case that you saw earlier. That
Sure.
was, something that the board probably would have denied, but the architect went back to the owner and they worked out something that would fulfill the Secretary of Interior standards. So we're hopeful that, we can work something out with the owner and rather than just an outright denial.
Sure.
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you. So we'll move into executive session. Would someone like to make a motion to continue this to next month's meeting?
I move that we continue case number 19-44 for 294 Granada Road to the October meeting of the Historic Planning Board.
Preservation Board.
Preservation Board.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Thank you. So we'll see you back next month, and please, reach out to staff and maybe encourage the owner to speak to them directly if he's interested in doing so. Sure. Then you don't have to be the messenger. Moving on to case number 19-47, 250 Pilgrim Road.
Actually, Madam Chair, I don't see the applicant here this evening. I know he was aware of the meeting, and I'm not sure
Okay.
why he's not present. Perhaps we could continue that as well, or we can hear
Okay.
it at your pleasure.
Okay. Okay, so 250 Pilgrim, we can continue to the next meeting, because we're basically at the end of the agenda, or should
Right.
we do the window policy and then come back to that, or?
I would imagine something must have come up that he's not going to show.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So can we have a motion to continue that last case?
250 Pilgrim.
Yes.
I move that we continue case number 19-47 for 250 Pilgrim Road to the October meeting of the Historic Preservation Board.
Do a second.
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 All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Okay, now the last case, 19-43, review of the window policy.
Yes, so really, staff was just looking for some feedback, if you'd had some more time to reflect on the direction for the window policy, so then Aaron could work that into some language and policy changes. But again, we're just seeking feedback tonight. He has the original presentation available if you needed it as a reference, but otherwise it was just kind of fact-finding to incorporate.
Would anyone like a refresher on what was discussed last month? Is there any way we could put up this matrix?
Absolutely.
Just because it's very tiny, printed in
Yes.
our packet.
Sorry, it's kind of slow. This one?
So this is the suggested changes?
The summary version of it.
Okay.
So tell me, is this matrix a tool that'll be used in-house? So in other words, if an applicant comes in, your hour would go to the thing and see where it fell under, and it
So,
kind of
yes,
simplifies
so
everything?
yes, currently we do have two matrices, or matrices. We have one as part of our board application, depending on the type of review. We have a more detailed one for staff, and then as far as the window one, we follow the matrix that was adopted by the board as a policy a few years ago. So that delineates the level of review and what's authorized at a staff level versus the board. So this would be a little more detailed of a matrix to accommodate more scenarios. And again, the concept was to present something that, on one hand, was a little more lenient for a property owner if they have already lost their original windows, but perhaps we could strengthen the saving of the original wood windows. So kind of a give and take, and to balance the scales a bit.
I had a question. On the last case that we just had he originally applied with aluminum windows, would the color still have had to come before the board, or would that
The
have
color
been
and
honored?
the changing of the opening size on the main
Would have.
facade.
Okay.
Mhm. And the only time we review color is if it's an inherent material color, like a roofing tile, but we don't for paint. Anything.
Also the material, because usually when they want to use vinyl, comes
Yes,
after-
exactly. It
before
would have been for
board.
the material as well as the color, right?
Right, but if it, but
If it was
typically,
aluminum
you're
was the-
replacing an original window with aluminum, it only gets a level
Correct.
2 review.
Correct.
Right,
Yes.
yeah.
So essentially, this would give us the opportunity, if someone's looking to replace the original windows, to try to talk them down.
That's right. But as a trade-off, if you've already lost your original windows, well, then you can have your vinyl, because at that point, there's no historic material left to lose. That was the thinking behind this proposal.
Could you go to number 6 through 9, please? Okay. Can't see this.
And so this was also for impact protection, just gauging your thoughts on accordions, pull-downs. Again, it's fine if you're not supportive of it. It was just something for discussion purposes. Because of course, when people have original windows, often the response is, well, I need the insurance discount because I need to protect them. So we recommend armor screen or removable panels. But perhaps if they had more protection options, because the installation is what people come back to us with. I'm elderly, physically am not able to install. It's hard to find people during a storm event. So some of these were a little easier to implement without outsourcing that.
Has staff ever considered suggesting, and 3M has that new hurricane film that came out, it's Miami-Dade approved.
I can look
a year
into
or
it.
two ago,
Sure,
and
we can look into
I
how that.
I was in Tampa, and I have a friend that had a historical house there, and that's what they did. I know it was cost effective. They got the insurance discount,
Great.
and it's just a film that's applied to the existing.
What is the
glass.
brand of that?
3M.
3M?
Mm-hmm.
Because a project that actually I'm doing in Miami,
Mm-hmm.
in downtown Miami, 3M told me that they don't have NOA. So
And
they told
obviously
me
They don't
Tampa is
have-
different, so.
Approved.
They don't-
I just Googled it, and it's what I pulled up said Miami-Dade approved. I haven't dug into
I'll
it.
research it. That's great, thank you. That'd be another option.
Yeah, I haven't even heard of that. So
Yeah, I
that's
think
good
it was
to know.
only-
yeah, it's Armor Guard. 3M has that product. It's energy efficient. Usually the armor doesn't come with a tint, so you have to live with a almost clear color. But they told me this is a big project that I'm doing in Miami, and they told me that they don't have a Miami-Dade approval
don't,
or
okay.
NOA.
Okay.
So if that, but they improve the impact.
Right.
It's about
Right.
so they evidently improve the impact, and they can do engineer calculations to show how much, according to the glass that gets applied to it, will improve. But in Miami-Dade, for example, they will require Miami-Dade approval, so you can't use it.
Right.
Thank you. We'll definitely research
Another
that and get
option.
back to you. Thank you.
Yeah, no, that's great.
And historically, we don't. I mean, we never approve accordion shutters, and I don't think that is appropriate for a historic.
We rarely have. There's some instances, actually mid-century modern buildings, sometimes it actually works well because the slim profile and the, but very rarely. So it was just, again, for discussion purposes.
Yeah, I think, sorry, go ahead.
From what you mentioned last week about the wooden windows, that it's a pretty hard sell, and that, from what I gather, they have to be in really good condition, other than having to maybe have the paint loosened so they can move up and down and maybe replace the paint. But other than that, if it requires any other kind of work in terms of opening up and putting in new sash weights and so forth, that it's not cost effective? Is that something?
Actually, it is. No, we're finding that even significantly deteriorated wood windows, it's still more cost-effective for a repair instead of a
Okay, so I
replacement.
must have misunderstood you. Yeah.
But I think as a lot of the consumers are a little nervous about how to approach a repair and who's going to do it and the unknowns versus the simple fix of here's a new window, even though it's not that simple. But
Right. So it, from what you're saying is that, you know, if they turn it down, what can you do? But it's really sounds like a sales job, that if you can convince them,
yes,
okay.
we're being outsold by
Right,
window
yeah.
companies.
And the other
And
important
insurance companies.
And the other important discussion that we should have is about vinyl. So we are running into, you know, very often now, every month, people that wants to use vinyl, and historically we never approve vinyl. But, you know, I think that we need to have like a strong opinion, a collective, strong opinion about it, what to do with that.
I like that we're dealing with it on a case-by-case basis because, for instance, that one house that thankfully the owners changed their mind and kept the original wood windows, like they were double-hung sash windows and only vinyl offers a product
For the double hung,
with a
correct.
double hung.
So in that scenario, they would have come to, under this new proposal, they would have come to you anyway, because they're the wood windows. If they had asked for aluminum, it would never have come to you. So that's, again, how we're trying to balance the saving of true original windows while giving more leniency if it's a replacement product.
And you weren't concerned that there would be more staff time needed if we had those?
We, thank you for being concerned about that, but we think it would balance it out. Again, the amount that we would approve at a staff level that is vinyl would negate the amount of work that it takes to prepare a wood window application.
Does the matrix still apply if it's a mix of replacement and original windows?
That's a good question. I'm gonna.
Apologize for stepping out. So actually I considered that, but I didn't really break it out. It's really just, I guess it would be, if you have a mixture, you would comply for per window. And obviously that might need to be tweaked in order to refocus what is the attention, or maybe there's a threshold, or it depends on the location of those windows. Obviously, if they're on the front or street side elevation, they should be, definitely preserved. As for the other sides, if they've already been replaced, maybe it's less of a concern, but I didn't actually break that out in any way, or really write that down in any way.
Yeah.
So under this, there's a scenario possibly that we could see like accordion shutters on a primary facade.
So in that situation, that would still go to the Historic Preservation Board for approval to consider that, and that would be only for if it's an original window. So if they already have a replacement window that isn't significant in its own right, then the board should deny it because they could just get a replacement window because it's not an original or significant window. And we would obviously also recommend some kind of removable product instead over that, but as a last resort, in order to preserve those windows.
Have to take the long-term view. Okay, do we want to look into that 3M product and then have another report next month?
Yes.
Okay,
And
good.
again, this evening was just to start gathering some feedback.
Yeah.
Also, it would be nice to know the cost difference in between a accordion shutter and an armor screen.
Actually, we can try to provide that for you by next month, not just on that, but a lot of the other questions, single hung repair versus single hung replacement, and give you in general some numbers. Yeah, thanks.
Could you clarify rows 8 and 9 for me?
Sure. So 8 and 9 deal with providing impact protection. So for 8, that would be an original or gained significance window. So any type of aluminum or other metal-based product, such as the accordion shutters, pull-down shutters, would be a level 2 review. So Federica and myself would be handling that, and that would only be approved when preserving an original or gained significance wood window. So it's kind of, that window has to be that type, and then it's preserving that window type. The difference between with 9 is that it deals with a street-facing elevation or a sidewalk elevation to take into effect the Mango Promenade, which has the two sides with the street on one side as well as the sidewalk on the other side.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so any additional feedback for staff? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And with that, I think we can have a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn the Tuesday, September 24th meeting of the Historic Preservation Board.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you.